it's so easy to like judge ourselves or others as, oh, lazy, or too emotional, or too bossy, or too aloof, whatever. But when we actually go to the core struggles, then whatever it is, the core could be the shame, could be rejection, or the desperate need to feel useful. Then when we can go there, then it fosters empathy instead of judgment, and instead of criticism there is a sense of acceptance, even within a community. When we are able to, it helped me so much to accept other people as they are, with a compassionate outlook, because something that may be easy for me may be a struggle for someone else.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Free Radical podcast. Today, I had the fortune of meeting a very interesting Vaishnavi, astrologer, author, and whatnot, Sri Radha Govinda Devi. She's the president of the Goa Academy, where she leads departments including astrology, Anartha Nivritti and the 12 steps, personality analysis, and bhakti marriage counseling. Sri Radha Govinda Devi also serves as global manager for Sudarshan Prayog, a traditional South Indian Vaishnav Yajna initiative for personal transformation and protection. An author of several books on astrology, self-development, and devotional life, including How to Mess Up Your Life with Astrology, Awaken Your Spiritual Destiny, and Enneadharma, she also writes series on Anartha Nivritti, marriage, and overcoming obstacles. Together with her husband, Kanteya Prabhu, she has traveled across 5 continents offering seminars and guidance to individuals and communities. We've had a very rich conversation with Sri Radha Govinda Devi, especially concentrating on the topic of Enneagram and how that applies the context of bhakti, how we can know our personality type and honor that in the context of bhakti with compassion, with understanding, how that will afford us the opportunity of learning more about each other, getting to know each other in our diversity, and relating to the divine even in our diversity. And what's the price when we do not do that? Spiritual bypassing, fitting in versus belonging, and so many other types of things. We've also referred to the Mahabharata and other traditional bhakti scriptures and detecting different personality types there and how they're speaking to us, inviting us to recognize who we are, where we are, and many other interesting, deep, exciting topics. So this is the Free Radical Podcast. And to support it, please subscribe to our channel by clicking on the bell. And if you feel inspired, nourished by our conversations, feel free to share it, to like it, to drop up your comments and continue this ongoing conversation. So without further ado, here is Sri Radha Govinda Devi. Sri Radha Govinda Devi, thanks so much for joining us in the Free Radical Podcast. Welcome.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. It's my honor, and I look forward to learn something new.
So why you are here today? Why you accepted the invitation? I always like to ask my guests what brings them here today.
Okay, what I really like is the way you integrate Krishna consciousness, like harmonize different aspects. You don't see them as compartmentalized aspects. So, like psychology, philosophy, devotion. So, talking to you and listening to a couple of lectures you gave, I felt inspired to dig into this concept of powerful psychological tools like maybe Enneagram or Vedic astrology, or this integration part. Like I really feel a calling towards that, whether individually or as a community. So I wanted to like take this opportunity to think in that direction and to have a conversation that will be nourishing, because honestly it's not so common to find that integrated view and vision of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes it can be very compartmentalized.
That's a good word.
Very linear, very linear, very fanatical even.
Hmm. Thank you.
Just
Yeah, I really appreciate your usage of the word integration. That's one of my favorite terms when thinking about life, spirituality, Krishna consciousness, which again for me shouldn't exclude psychological dimensions, emotional, physical dimensions, but it should be a wholeness project. I also like a lot the word wholeness. I mean, whenever I use transcendence, I try to use wholeness because for me, transcendence, at least how it's used or understood by many, is more like leaving this place, rejecting stuff, transcending, and reaching some other place instead of integrating, like accommodating, harmonizing. So, of course, that's also one of the reasons why I felt inspired to have you here today, since I really also appreciate that call you have for integration, as well as your good husband Kanteya Prabhu, that also had the pleasure to talk to him recently along with you. And I really felt both of you are really very much into trying to make Krishna consciousness a wholesome project that doesn't do away with anything. There's no need to bypass. There's no need to reject.
correct.
So,
Correct.
good. Sri Radha Govinda, you are very much into different topics. You have studied different areas of knowledge. You know many languages. I won't mention how many, not to embarrass you publicly now. You even speak Spanish. The other day we were talking. I was so surprised. Born in Udupi and then speaking English and some German here, and suddenly you start to talk to me in Spanish. I'm tempted to do our whole podcast in Spanish, but let's keep in English. But today we've chosen among all your different areas of expertise, maybe to concentrate a little bit on an interesting theme for me as well, which is the Enneagram. And you've written, among many books, there's one book that you've written called the Enneadharma, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yes,
So
Enneadharma.
I don't know if you would like to share a few words of introduction for those of us who are not so introduced of the Enneagram. What's the Enneagram and what's the Enneadharma?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so mind, mind, our
Hmm.
body, our karma, our devotional life, they're not like separate departments. So Enneagram is like identifying like the inner architecture of our ego, I call it.
Hmm.
While see, because I really believe in the Bhagavatam principle that notpadayed yadiratim shamayevahi kevalam. Whatever does not help me develop that connection to Krishna, then it's a waste of time. So, how this Enneagram book came about is in my helping profession. I was looking at different people's anarthas, including my own, and then I was seeing how everybody has a unique path of austerity, and Enneagram can be a very powerful psychological tool to help us to do this process of Anartha Nivritti, that become free from this endless patterns of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And Krishna consciousness is complete. It's at the same time, when Rupa Goswami was writing these literatures, when our acharyas were writing these literatures, there was not so much distractions and contamination that we have today, because we really, what I call, as we blend ourselves into other people's priorities, other people's values, so we really lose ourselves. So this Enneagram book really helps to see that interconnectedness, like, because everything is interconnected. The
Mm.
planets, there's a macrocosm, and then the hugeness of the universal cosmic existence reality is also a reflection in me, in the microcosm, in my mind, my thoughts, my feelings, my motivations, my fear. So basically, this Enneagram book, it can be a harmonizing tool. It
Mm.
helps to identify the core fears, core desire, core the path of integration and disintegration. So, okay, so just in summary, Anarthas basically means false identifications, like I
Mm.
may think I must be needed or I must be the best, etc. This is like false identification. And Enneagram, Enneadharma book especially, it focuses on naming the ego story. So, how it helps me is when I was able to identify my ego story, I call it. So then I was able to kind of disidentify and see that that's not me,
Mm-hmm.
especially the disintegration part, and then offer it to Krishna. So it helps this project, this Enneagram or Enneadharma. It helps to identify those core fears, core motivations, and manage our Anartha Nivritti, I would say.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate your reframing of, I mean, Anarta to begin with, as you mentioned, false identifications, or literally, well, Anarta means false value also. And Arta means like gain or value. So Anarta means we are just investing a false sense of value into something that where the value is somewhere else. So, and I think we need to use language to address the things in a way that is also compassionate and sustainable, because sometimes in the name of Anartha Nivritti we end up hating ourselves or like, oh, these Anarthas are demons and I need to kill them, and we enter into a type of distorted Vira rasa, right? Trying to fight
Yeah.
the demon outside instead of intense, at least for me, using words like healing and integrating and understanding with compassion. Okay, we are investing something in the wrong direction and we can just be more accurate in our investments, so to say, right?
Oh my God, yeah. I think that's the core, the compassionate understanding.
Mm,
Because it's so easy to like judge ourselves or others as, oh, lazy, or too emotional, or too bossy, or too aloof,
mm,
whatever. But when we actually go to the core struggles, then whatever it is, the core could be the shame, could be rejection, or the
mm,
desperate need to feel useful. Then when we can go there, then it fosters empathy instead of judgment, and
yeah.
instead of criticism there is a sense of acceptance, even within a community. When we are able to, it helped me so much to accept other people as they are,
Mm,
and with a compassionate outlook, because something that may be easy for me may be a struggle for someone else.
mhm. Yeah, and as I like to think and say, behind every anartha there is some necessity, unfulfilled necessity. Behind every false identification there is some brokenness that we can be compassionate with, instead of judging, attacking. Because as you were saying, the more I become judgmental toward my own anarthas, toward anyone else's anarthas, the more I'm reinforcing anarthas, because judgmentalism is in itself an anartha, right? Or the more
Yeah.
violent I become to myself or others in the context of Anartha Nivritti, in the name of Anartha Nivritti, the more Anarthas I'm acquiring. So it's very tricky how in the name of Anartha Nivritti we are actually perpetrating more and more Anarthas instead of really
Oh
healing,
my God.
integrating. Yeah, yeah.
That
I
is so
I personally,
unfortunate.
in terms of the Enneagram, I personally, before that, I was thinking, I appreciated what you mentioned also. I was laughing when you said, okay, in the times of Rupa Goswami, when they were writing these literatures, the environment was more friendly, right? There was not so much disturbance. I remember there's one part in the Hari Bhakti Vilas where Sanatan Goswami is mentioning, before chanting japa, one can do some pranayam, some a few minutes of pranayam, which is in itself interesting, because I know sometimes in some devotional circles some will think pranayam has nothing to do with our tradition. That's something whatever yogic, and we are all about bhakti. And there you have Sanatan Goswami saying pranayam will help to balance the mind, be more present. But I was laughing when you say this about Rupa Goswami and the quietness of the time, because I'm thinking, okay, Sanatan Goswami is recommended. I think he said 5 minutes or something of pranayam, 10 minutes before japa, 500 years ago in a peaceful Indian village to calm your mind. So how will that translate to today? Maybe we have to do 15 hours of pranayam before starting japa, which of course I'm not saying that's to be prescribed, but I'm saying tools like Enneagram or others may be necessary to bring into the picture as a way of saying the same thing that Sanatan Goswami said 500 years ago. Okay, 10 minutes of pranayam now may mean some Enneagram, some healing here or whatever, to learn to heal and be present. So when you address Krishna in prayer, you can really be there, right?
Yeah, it reminds me when I think once when Srila Prabhupada was giving it, no, I don't think it was Srila Prabhupada. Maybe it was Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Somebody was giving initiation, and then they had to make the person who's taking initiation say that no marijuana. You know, they had to like be specific, and I think it was Tamal Krishna Maharaj, if I'm not mistaken. So he was saying how in the time of Rupa Goswami, there were not certain anarthas or certain
Mm,
drugs even that to specify and say, I'm not going to do this. Or,
mm,
you know, for instance, pornography, it was not a problem back then.
mm,
It had to be like a Jamal, he had to walk into the forest. I mean, a Jamal was much earlier, but I'm just saying that there was no mobile phones or internet or data
mhm.
where people
Yeah.
had access to Maya literally on in the fingertips.
Mm,
And yeah, the firefighters, right? Like people are the Krishna-sized hole. I always say that we have a Krishna-sized hole, the emptiness in us that can only be fit by Krishna, and then we try to look for substitutes in
mm,
people, in different kinds of addictions, maybe food, maybe scrolling or whatnot. And
mm,
those same addictions were not a problem 500 years ago.
mm. Yeah, yeah, and that brings to the picture the need to articulate those addictions as part of potential problems. Because if we just remain saying, okay, the only thing we have to avoid is these four regulative principles we have to follow. We don't do this. But as you say, in the times we are living, we have so many other things that somehow are extensions of those things. Like I remember we made a podcast with Namrasa Prabhu a few years ago, and we call it the fifth regulative principle because we have the four, and the fifth we were talking about how to deal with social media, because that's again something that was not there in the times of the Goswamis, but now you have it in your pocket, and you can end up breaking all the other four regulative principles and more through
Correct.
that little device next to you. Like again, pornography, addicted to scrolling, addicted to giving a false idea of yourself to the world, being violent in how you speaking threats. I don't know. All the four regulative principles can be destroyed by social media. So sometimes we make this, we have to be, I don't know, dynamic and flexible in how we understand these regulations in our practice to encompass contemporary challenges. Because if not, we may cheat ourselves thinking, oh, I'm following the four regs very strictly, but at the same time, you are destroying them in so many other ways, right? So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate how Enneagram can bring light to that, can create awareness about where we are, who we are, what we need to work on. I personally came to know about the Enneagram, I don't know how many years ago, but a little less than 10 years ago.
Hmm.
So a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, friend of mine, Archana Siddhi, she shared with me a series of DVDs at that time. It already sounds like another era to speak in terms of DVDs.
Yeah.
And there were Father Richard Rohr, who eventually became a very dear friend and mentor of mine. And he's a Franciscan author and friar, but also he wrote books on the Enneagram. So very interesting. So he was given a whole series on the Enneagram, each one lecture per each one of the 9 numbers of the Enneagram. So I became really fascinated about that. And for me, of course, many insights came, but one very simple and powerful insight that came to me at that time was like, okay, people is different. As simple as that sounds, people think differently, see life differently, see things even spiritually different, and we have to keep that in mind and not relate to everyone like they are seeing and thinking the same way I'm doing it. Which again is so simple, but we so often we miss that lesson, I would say.
Yeah.
Like the scripture say, Atmavam manjate jagat, right? You see the world according to your own inner world. So for me, the Enneagram was a very wake up tool to realize, wow, this person next to me is seeing the world in such a different way. And I appreciate that diversity. It's not that it's a threat, it's something bad. It's just like complementary and wow, we are different. One and different. Again, unity and diversity.
Yeah. It's
So
true.
that was one of my main insights. So the Enneagram again has these 9 numbers with some, of course, wings, if I'm not mistaken, and different varieties. To give a further clear idea for those unfamiliar with the Enneagram, if you feel comfortable sharing, for example, what's your personal Enneagram type, Sri Radha?
Okay. Mine is, I'm a type 2 with the 3 wing.
Uh-huh. So what's that? What's
The
that about,
type
basically?
2. Yeah, so the 9 types, type 2 is the helper.
Hmm.
Somebody whose core motivation is to want to be of service, but of course it has its perks. So before I kind of introduce the types, I want to quote this in Bhagavatam verse. It's the emphasis is on tapodivyam putrakayena sattvam shuddhyet yasmad brahma saukyam tvanantam. So the austerity part is necessary for human beings. So it's about getting out of the comfort zone. So every Enneagram type has our own comfort zone and stretch zone.
Yeah.
So, for example, for a type 2, I want to like, because there are many angles we can talk about the types. I want to talk from the angle of tapodivyam, meaning austerity. What is austerity, especially in spiritual life? So, for a type 2, for instance, who's a helper, the default mode is they're naturally giving. It's easy for them to give. It's not an austerity. It's natural. At the same time, the real austerity would be receiving without guilt or giving without the need for validation. So that would be austerity. And going back to type 1, so 1 is the perfectionist, you can call them, or yeah, there are many different ways to, it's not for labeling, but it's just to understand their
Yeah.
motivation. So type 1s are perfectionists who like justice, who like to do things the right way. So they naturally are cautious in how they do things. They like dot all the t's and sorry, dash all the t's and dot all the i's. And for them, the real austerity would be to let go and to let Govinda and to be in the mood of I'm doing my best, but to not to obsess over it. That would be a real austerity. Whereas, for another type, like let's say the type 3, 3 is the achiever, the one who is, it's easy for them to like act, be in action mode,
Mhm.
go and get things done. And for them, the real austerity would be to be, just to
Mhm.
be,
Human
not
being,
to
not
do.
human doing.
Yes, not human doing, human being. It's very difficult for a type 3
Yeah.
to just be. And sometimes the values of 3 can contradict. The achiever is so obsessed with looking successful that
Hmm.
they forget that the aspect of just feeling the success or being is very difficult for them. So they may not think so much of right and wrong as long as they look successful. So
Hmm.
the austerity for them is, being in the core. It's very difficult for them. So every type has their difficulty. For like a type, the romantic or the individualist, the type 4 is called the individualist. So for them, they feel emotions, which can be very good for Krishna consciousness. They feel emotions if it's directed to Krishna consciousness. They
Mhm.
can feel emotions for Krishna and bhajans, and it's very nice. And the real austerity would be emotional detachment from what they feel, and to give too much power to their emotions, and
Hmm.
to be of service and to do things in the mood of service and to do things in the mood of righteousness. That would be their austerity. And then there's the observer, the type 5. They are also like the, call them intellectual also, but observer. And they kind of withdrawn. There's even animals for every Enneagram type. You can actually,
Mhm.
like, type 1 is the ant who's always working hard, busy. And type 2 is like the dog, especially this Saint, what's that? Saint Bernard dog, the one who goes up in the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
snow. People. So Saint Bernard is the type 2. Then 3 is the peacock, which is all about like showing the beauty and the
Mhm.
success, image conscious. And then the 4, I forget what animal is 4. 5 is the owl. who
Mm.
observe. And then six are the loyalist. Those people who are the animal is the kangaroo, very cautious in taking actions. So for them, it's very easy to be committed to certain things and to stick to a certain plan. And their austerity, the real austerity for them could be to make peace within and not be in the insecure fear platform, but to like feel security with Krishna. So that may be the austerity for them. Whereas like a achiever, they can jump into taking risks. It's not
Mhm.
a problem for them. So they may look at a loyalist and say, why don't you just take a risk? Why don't you just jump and
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
things?
Yeah.
Because for this type, the loyalist, they don't want to risk. They want to play it carefully, cautiously. And so for them, they don't need to risk. They
Mm.
don't need to be
Yeah.
like the other one, but they need to find that internal peace.
Mm.
And then there is the seven. The seven are the fun ones. The fun, they are called the enthusiasts. They're always enthusiastic about things. They get bored easily. So the austerity for them would be to stick to commitments, to wake up every day at the same time. That may be a difficulty. Whereas for a loyalist, they don't have any problem waking up early or going to Mangalarti or chanting their rounds. Their problem might be something that's very easy for the enthusiast, to be happy or to
Mhm.
change plans. That can be austerity. And then there's the leader or the boss, the challenger. I like more the word challenger for an eight. The type eight, they like to challenge everything. So they can be the bossy one. They can appear to be very bossy. And for
Mm.
them, austerity is to help people, to be again of service to others, not just challenge people, because not everybody loves a challenge, not every
Mm.
type likes a challenge. And then we have the peacemaker. For instance, before even you told us your type, we knew that you're a type 9. You avoid conflict, you're into integration. And the austerity, maybe for the 9 or the peacemaker, voicing their needs or taking a stand, that can be a austerity for them, because
Mm.
they are very good at like accepting everyone's views and opinions, but maybe sometimes voicing their opinion may be austerity for them.
Mm.
And so, like that. And one other analogy that can help us to look at this is like imagine there's a river and all these 9 types are standing on one side and they want to cross the river. So the one is thinking, what kind of suit should I wear? How should I swim? What kind of direction? They're always like calculating how to reach point A to point B in the perfect manner,
Mm.
perfect time, perfect clothes, and everything. And two, they say it's like a joke. They never cross the river because they're always busy helping other people cross. Always helping others to cross. And so, and the three is like, what strokes am I going to swim in? Because everybody's going to watch me and I'm going to be
Okay.
fabulous there. And so three is very focused on how they are viewed. They are
Mm.
focused on how successful they're going to swim across. And then the four, who's the individualist, is like, they don't care about crossing and reaching the other end. They are so absorbed in the experience of it,
Mm.
backstroke and sideways, and they're just enjoying the waters in one sense. And experiencing the waters, not so much enjoyment, because it's also the melancholic type. They are
Mm.
always in melancholy. And then the five is also sitting on the tree, observing everybody, how they are crossing. The observer is like, let's see how everyone does, and then I'll decide. And then there is the loyalist, who follows the perfectionist, how they did it. They see that they did it the perfect way, so they don't want to take any risks, so they follow
Mm.
that type. And then the seven, of course, is just wants to have fun. They want to jump down. They want to like dive into the water and do all kinds of fun stuff. And then the challenger is like, why should I cross the river? Who
Mm.
says I cross the river. I'm not going to cross the river. Why should I swim? So they get busy in building a bridge. They say, why should we swim and cross? I'll build a bridge. And they say that one of the theories is that the eights are the challenger. They're so good. They're very efficient. They build the bridge. But the problem is, they don't let anybody cross. They stand in the way. So they may come up with like amazing things, but they don't cross.
Mm.
And I guess you can guess what the nine would do.
Maybe the 9 is trying to harmonize all the other 8 different
Yes,
opinions.
yes, yes, exactly. So the nine is like, maybe the two and the eight, if they get together, many more people could cross the
Mm,
bridge. So they're
mm,
very much focused on how to harmonize everybody, how to help everyone reach the other side. So like that. So the tapasya, it doesn't mean copying others. It means surrendering our attachments, our specific comfort zone. So it
mm,
can be different for different people. And that's why I like Enneagram, because it's also, there's not like, oh, you're this and then that's it. There's
mhm,
a progress, there's a path of integration. Like, for instance, the perfectionist needs to learn to be more like the enthusiast, who's like chill, doesn't take mistakes. It's okay. The enthusiast
mhm,
is like, it's okay, tomorrow we'll get it right. So
mm,
the perfectionist needs to be more like that. Mm. And the helper needs to be more like, it's okay, I can also experience my emotions. And the achiever needs to learn to be more like the peacemaker. I don't know, it's not always about me. Let's see the bigger picture. So every type has their path of progress, the direction of integration, the
mm,
growth. That's why I really like Enneagram, because it's not like most of the personality types. It's like, this is you and that's it.
mm,
But Enneagram really goes beyond. Like, what am I most afraid to let go of? How does Krishna challenge my comfort zone? In what ways Krishna consciousness? Which area should I work on? How can I offer the strengths that I have in service? So it's really like introspective. Like it helps
mhm.
us be more introspective.
Yeah, thank you. That was really helpful. I really appreciate your very summarized, but very clear introduction to the different types, and with the water example. I mean, it really expands this notion of how every person is different. Of course, not every person, and limiting every person to the 9 types. Every person is
Yeah.
different to themselves, but still speaking about types or species, if you want to use that word, they are so different from one another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They are so different. So, and I appreciate how you gave some examples of the interaction between them, and how one is not understanding the other and one is expecting the other to act or to see things as one will do, and one becomes frustrated because that's not happening. One is projecting one's own needs onto the other, and what's necessary for me as a 9 is not necessary for the other person as a 4. And it's okay, right? And it's so delicate, because I'm just, I mean, so many times I've seen, and in my particular situation as trying to mentor and help and guide other people, at least in my first naive years, sometimes we have this type of like universal formulas, right? Like, okay, this is how to guide people, this is what to tell in this answer, this is what, and you receive like a more universal, abstract, I will call impersonal, set of replies. So you will give the same reply to, and in any given situation, you give the same reply to each different person who are different Enneagram types or different type of people. And looking back, you realize, yeah, sometimes it didn't work at all, because one was given just a very abstract, generic reply instead of being personal enough. That's no wonder in time I realized that, and I named my book Radical Personalism, which is very tied to this notion of Enneagram, which is very much about let's relate to each other for who each other is. No, as an acquired nature, but also as an individual entity, and let's not make like of everyone like an homogeneous mass of entities who are all the same, and give me the magical formula and I know what to say to any given question. And I've heard so many times devotees frustrated and losing faith when receiving those types of very universal replies, which are not matching, which are not relatable to their unique case. So I think Enneagram is such a tool for specificity, right? For making people feeling, oh, I'm being addressed for who I am. I'm being met in my needs. I'm being met where I am. Not because if not, they will feel whatever you are telling me goes above my head or on one side or on the other, but it's not hitting home, right? So I was really appreciating how your description of the different types bring this more to light. How each one is a unique universe to themselves.
Mm.
Literally, we could say everyone is living. Every type is living in their own planet, so to say.
Yes.
Fine, which is not a problem. We can have interplanetary peace, right? We can coexist among
Yeah.
different types, right? I mean, that's the charm. I will say different types also bring so much complementarity, and one can learn from each other, and one can challenge each other even without wanting to do so. But that's how relationships and life works, right?
Yeah, that's so true. This last year there was this UN event. There were women empowerment thing, and I was invited to represent ISKCON. And at the last day, I was also chosen to be one of the panel speakers. And among all these women were really qualified, really with a lot of experience. I run a small NGO, but these women, like, they have like 500 people working under them and etc. And they were all there. And I was the last person to speak on the panel. And of course, I used my expertise. So after they all finished speaking, I just gave like a short summary of each of those persons' nature. And they were just mind blown. It was just like, how do
Mm.
you know so much about us?
Mm.
Because although all those women were engaged in similar activities, when they spoke, it's so clear, it's like as clear as this is the river, these are the mountains, and this is the sky, and this is the stars. The clarity of their type was like shining so bright, and then I was
Mm.
able to like take their type, and then they were all like, oh, tell about me, how could you say that just by, and then I
Mm.
shared, look, I don't have the experience that you have with the
Mm.
running the organization, but this is where I came across with the point that we need as leaders to be able to integrate, to be able to harmonize different people, different natures, so we can empower them truly for who they are, and not just come with a wield our thing and say, this is how it should be done, this is what you need to do. I think really that leaders, if they can understand Enneagram properly in Sattvaguna, because everything is mixture of modes and everything can be used in different modes. We can use Enneagram in Rajas Guna and Tamas Guna and create a mess in the community, right? So the Enneagram can teach us that this is your pattern. This is not your identity. So I call this like a Swabhava Vichar. It's not a
Mm.
Swarupa Vichar. It's not our
Mm.
Swarupa. It's not our eternal
Mm.
identity, but it's your patterns, it's your nature. And then it helps us to recognize our strengths, our weaknesses, and as a leader, it helps us recognize people's strengths and weaknesses, so that we can engage people according to their nature. So, for example, in a devotional community, not everyone thrives in the same role. Like a helper may thrive in one-on-one support, whereas the observer may prefer to be in the back and do the research
Mhm.
behind the scenes. So when leaders can understand the types and also understand what is their growth or integration, it really stretches in a healthy way and gently helps people go beyond their limitations. So I really think that in Anartha Nivritti, individually it helps in Anartha Nivritti, and as leaders, it can help us grow communities which are with less misunderstanding, with less of the culture of pressuring people to do what they're told,
Mm.
but open the door for collective healing, spiritual
Mm.
maturity. like individuality,
Yeah.
creating like a safe, non-judgmental space where there's more room for honesty. Otherwise, it becomes, especially in India, maybe also a little bit in South America, but in India, or I mean, even in US, there are a lot of Indians. So there's a culture of wearing masks. Oof, 300 miles of masks
Mm.
because we want to fit in, we want to be accepted, we want to belong. So there's the risk of losing true spiritual growth by trying to fit in and wear masks.
Yeah.
So if we are aware of our Enneagram type and people around us, it helps us to be more honest and more accepting.
Mm.
What's been your experience? Do you resonate with this?
108%, Sri Radha Govinda Ji. Yeah, I totally appreciate your point on leadership, because sometimes in communities I've seen the pattern of, okay, what's the need of the moment, and everyone needs to do what is necessary. And in one sense, I would say the need of the moment is to, especially now, is to address the individual as an individual, and to see, you say, which is their type, which is their nature, which is their swabhav, and how those individuals can be empowered by being able to connect with their swabhav. Because again, Krishna says in the Gita, we have a certain nature. It's not easy to just skip that or change that. There's no need to do that, actually. That's an important point for me. It's not that you need to reject your swabhav in order to attain your swarup. No, you were using these two terms, swabhav bichar, swarup bichar. No, you can embrace your swabhav, spiritualize it, and your swarup will manifest eventually in that context, right? So it's not like I have to shun my swabhav. I have to, okay, I have this nature, I have to act in the exact opposite way, so I transcend my nature by doing the exact opposite. That probably takes you to the psychiatric hospital or something. That will be dysfunctional. So in our tradition, there's more this idea of, you have a mental body, psychic body, physical body. You don't need to reject any of that. You just need to pour Krishna, so to say, into that, pour bhakti into that, spiritualize all of your functions, dimensions. Nothing needs to be rejected. Again, everything needs to be integrated. That's for me very clear in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna in the beginning insisting to Arjuna, embrace your adhikar, embrace your swabhav, act according to your nature. You cannot just escape from the battlefield. You will be returning by force because your nature will bring you back. So better engage in the battle according to your nature, but in service to me, fulfilling my wish, not just being brought by force by your nature, but in order to please me. So, but yeah, I totally agree that how empowering is for in communal terms, for leaders to really develop these skills, for example Enneagram, or this type of knowledge, where they can really meet the people where they are at, not only in terms of where are you in terms from Shraddha to Prem in the 9 stages of bhakti, also, but also where are you in terms of the 9 Enneagram types, so to say. Who are you, so to say, not to over identify the person with one number, one type, but is a designation that is there, and okay, what we can do with that. There's a potential in terms of healing, a potential in terms of service. So I will really emphasize for leaders to develop some of this toolkit in order to relate to their community, and to really, in the good sense of the term, take advantage, not for themselves, but take advantage of everyone's nature and potential, and bring that to the fore, so everyone can feel really fulfilled, enthusiastic, inspired, and really feeling, okay, they are relating to me for who I am. Like the example you were given in this lecture you gave at the end, and you spoke and you then referred to each one of the type from the previous speakers, and how each of them were like, wow, tell me more about me. Right, like the feeling was like, okay, it seems that you know more about me than what I know about me, so tell me more about me. So I think I can see how these tools can really help people to know more about themselves, not in any narcissistic self way, but on some level we need to know about ourselves, actually, where we are, what we need in our nature, and how to. Without that knowledge, we may be just, again, comparing ourselves, imitating others. As you say, in an attempt to belong, we end up trying to fit in. I try to always make a difference between those two words, fitting in and belonging, because actually they're opposites. But it's interesting that many times we use them like interchangeably, and that's dangerous, because fitting in is, in order to fit in, I need to stop being who I am. I need to create a character, put a mask, as you say, 300 miles of masks, uh, and I need to perform. It's performative. And in order to belong, instead of instead of being who I'm not, I need to be who I am. That's the only way I can belong, by being who I
Yeah.
am. So, and everyone needs to be who I am, especially if we are speaking in terms of spiritual circles, where supposedly you are inviting people to be who they are, right? We are
Yeah.
promoting be who you are, but paradoxically, many times in spiritual circles, or spirituality becomes one of the main masks that we wear, like
Yeah.
not to be who we are. We put a spiritual mask of being paka, being very nice, Sunday feast, Haribol, Prabhu, everything nectar, and chanting my japa so nobody tells me anything, whatever. So it's interesting how I remember reading a quote, I don't know from whom it was, but something like, if you really want to do bypassing and cheat yourself, spiritual circles is one of the main places to go, right? So this is razor's edge. Prabhupada will say, not quoting Kata Upanishad, spirituality is like a razor's edge, right? So you can shape yourself nicely, or you can cut your whole face. So it's very delicate, very delicate. But I think things like Enneagram help to bring all this to awareness, and normalizes some of the things, so we can be ourselves, accept our others for who they are, be more, yeah, more accepting, more understanding,
Mm.
more compassionate, to normalize some things that sometimes we end up stigmatizing and create so much,
Yeah.
again, performance and fear and intimidations and perfectionist standards and superficial ways of being, instead of, hey guys, let's relax so for a moment, and let's be who we are, and let's accompany each other in that journey. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, when you see devotees or when you see people who are less masked,
Mm.
it's delightful to be in their association. They make you feel comfortable. There's not that trigger or the pressure to perform or to try to fit in. It's just like you look at them and say, wow, they're so comfortable in their own skin, and it inspires the same.
Yeah.
And this whether it's Enneagram or any other tool like this, it's not for self fixation. I see it as a tool for self purification.
Mm.
If we approach it in sattvaguna, in humility, sincerity, with the spiritual intent,
Mhm.
then uh, then and only then these tools can uplift us and others.
Mm.
But it can also be done in the mode of passion, like in the book Enneadharma, the whole book. Every type I say how the type would feel in tamas guna, how they will do in rajas guna, and what would it be in sattva for that type to connect.
Mhm.
So I was thinking of another example, how in Mahabharat,
Yeah, I
in
want to
Bhagavad
go there
Gita,
because you mentioned the Mahabharata and the Enneagram. So
yeah.
please, let's go to the Mahabharata and the
So
Enneagram.
even
What's the connection
in
between this?
so Gita, like when we see Bhagavad Gita in the first chapter, and Arjuna is like the typical type three, the achiever, who
Mm.
also has that the moment of when he starts to feel like, no, I can't do this. I would look like when he starts saying like Kim no rajyena govinda, Kim bhogair jivitena va. That's like a typical achiever going into the mode of like it's very unhealthy for an achiever to become a peacemaker in the
Mhm.
Enneagram system. For a three to go to nine is disintegration. It's unhealthy.
Mm.
And that's the moment when it happens to him, because then he starts to like, oh my God, what's going to happen if I'm going to kill all these people here? Who am I going to show off my victory to? In what sense? How will I enjoy my victory if I kill everybody here? So there
Mm.
was a then he wants to be a peacemaker, and he wants to go to the forest and
Yeah.
just retire. And then it's interesting. First of all, it's interesting how Krishna integrates, right, the anthropological aspect of how he's putting the psychology, the theology, the philosophy, the culture. He puts Krishna kind of like harmonizes. He doesn't just separate and say, just do this. He's giving a whole Bhagavad Gita is full psychology, full on psychology.
mm,
Nobody can say, no, no, psychology is different from Krishna consciousness. Krishna
mm,
consciousness is psychology, right? And then when Krishna starts to challenge Arjuna, he challenges him or like insults him. How an achiever would react is that if Krishna had to say the same things to Bhima, he wouldn't say those same things. He wouldn't say the same things to
mhm.
Yudhishthira because it wouldn't shake them. Because
Yeah.
Yudhishthir was a perfectionist, the type
Mm,
one.
mm,
Dharma, righteousness, justice, do the right thing, be the perfectionist, don't go an inch this side or that side, stick to the. So that was his mood, and how
mm.
Krishna dealt with him with the whole story of Ashwattama Hataha Kunjaraha. When Yudhishthir Maharaj had to lie, it was a big
Uh-huh.
deal because, for the Dharmaraj, the righteousness and the truth, and he could not stray from it. So he had to, like, it was a huge austerity for him to do Krishna's will through this way. And
Mm,
then, when another instance, I'm thinking of Bhima, when the Brahmastra, was it Narayanastra, right? When the Narayanastra was coming and everyone was bowing down.
mhm,
And Bhima is like, no way I'm bowing down. I'm facing this. I'm not gonna like take it. And then Krishna had to talk to him as he would talk to a challenger, which is
mm,
Bhima. He
mm,
was the challenger who killed all the Kauravas. So the energy type of Bhima is like, I'm not bowing my head in front of this challenge. I'm not taking defeat. Bring it on. Bring it on. But
mm,
then only Krishna had to like help Bhima see the real challenge. The real challenge was he needed to be respectful to the Narayanastra. And Krishna's like, it's my energy, it's me. So then Bhima was able to go from a challenger to the two of being like seeing divine plan and everything.
mm,
And similarly, we can see different characters like misplaced loyalty. We can really see in Mahabharat's characters, we see misplaced loyalty in Karna. Um, and it's not necessarily like we don't have to define it only by a particular type, but sometimes we can also take the principles, the values. So that's like when loyalty goes in the tamas guna or rajas guna,
mm,
whether it was Karna's misplaced loyalty towards Duryodhan, which in our lives the relevance could be we are trying to be very loyal, but maybe with the wrong people, maybe with the wrong organization, or maybe with the wrong friends.
mhm,
And the results are we keep disintegrating. We're not growing in our spiritual life. We are not really succeeding. Or even Bhishma. Bhishma also, for him, also was like a similar thing of misplaced loyalty,
mhm,
sticking to Dharma at the cost of something higher. Or Dronacharya is similar. Like when they say that we are depending on these on Dhritarashtra because we are codependent
mm,
situation. So I really see this Enneagram knowledge, if applied in Sattva can help us detect where we are going, where are our, how to say it in a decent way, what's the nonsense my mind is trying to escape, what are the justifications my mind is using to
mm,
deviate me from the path. If we truly take a look within, this can show us when is my loyalty misplaced, and when am I going in the flow of growth, development. Another sign is when we are acting, when we are stressed. When we are stressed, we disintegrate. Like for me, when I am stressed, then I become a challenger.
mhm,
I start to try to prove my sense of self worth or whatever whenever I don't feel, and it's not sustainable. And what I have seen is a lot of people, there's a lot of pressure in the world today that success, productivity, all these things are very linear, and everything is based on how much money you earn, how many followers you have. Everything is so catered to that, that any of these Enneagram types try to fit into that role. But then you will see after some years it's not sustainable, and they'll come back to their original nature, and then they try to they will come back, because it's not possible to grow in an environment. It false growth. It's like that carrot, which is which has this big leaf on the top, but the carrot is really tiny. So if you try to fit, if you, like you said, the example of trying to fit in and belong, I really like the difference that you
Yeah.
highlighted.
And you're given this example that, okay, modern society is all about productivity and perfection, and that it's not sustainable. But also sometimes we can create those same standards in a spiritual community, right? Like attainment, productivity, perfectionist, and again, everyone may run for that. That's what's I'm supposed to do that to please my guru, to be a pure devotee, to be liked by Krishna. All these false myths that we may create, and again, as you say, after some time it's not sustainable. So unfortunately, many people end up thinking, oh, I'm a failure, right? And they start beating themselves and feeling terrible about themselves, though they remain as devotees, but they become depressed and self-hating, or they think, oh, this process doesn't work for me, so
Yes.
I leave the whole thing altogether. Because well, that was not the case. It was just that we were creating a very unhealthy, or I appreciate your word, disintegrating standard of productivity and perfection and attainment, and everyone has to fit in that box, instead of learn to be yourself, learn to belong. So Sri Radha Govinda, you mentioned so many interesting pieces of wisdom while referring to the Mahabharata. I really love Mahabharata also, in the sense that, and it needs to be more highlighted in our tradition. Particularly, sometimes the Mahabharata is like put down in the sense, oh, it's more relative, it's about politics and romance and war. And the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of the Mahabharata. So let's go to the Bhagavad Gita straight, from there to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then Gaur Leela Ki Jai. But we lose all this content and nuance and things that you're sharing with us, coming from the Mahabharata, which in one sense the Mahabharata is the context in which the Bhagavad Gita is appearing, right? Bhagavad Gita is not an isolated text. It's appearing in the context of certain other things that are being said before and after, and that we call Mahabharata. So I think it's so important. And we will say, okay, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural continuation of the Gita. So if you want to understand the Bhagavatam, it's good you understand the Gita. But if you want to understand the Gita, you have to understand the Mahabharata, which again, sometimes is described as more relative in comparison to more absolute scriptures like the Bhagavatam or the Gita. But I think it's so crucial to understand that relativity, body, emotions, things that you were describing, different psychological patterns, how they play out in relationships. I mean,
The core,
I
the
don't know how
core
much you talked about
motivations.
that in your Enneadharma book. I haven't read the book yet, but if you haven't, please write a book about that.
Yeah,
Mahabharata,
actually,
Enneagram, or Enneagram Gita, please. Bhagavad Gita with purports filtered through the Enneagram types. That would be incredible. Sorry, you were saying something.
yeah, I did write something called the villain characters of Mahabharata Enneagram perspective,
Okay.
especially of Duryodhan, his core motivations, and then of course goes back to Dhritarashtra. His core motivation to even have Duryodhan was he was obsessed. The throne, the throne, the throne. And then he got a son who was obsessed about the throne, the throne, the throne. And then the narcissistic personality type of Duryodhan and all that, like you were saying, there's a culture of narcissistic culture around like you said, even spiritual organizations, unfortunately, or even narcissistic leaders that
Mhm.
basically in my research, my studies, I realized that narcissism is a disease.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
sickness. People are just so sick that they're not enjoying the spiritual, real spiritual culture, or they're not really able to, they're not capable of going through that transformation and to become free. And one thing I wanted to say was my, my this was about 8, 9 years ago. I had a breakdown, and one of the reasons for this breakdown was this culture of trying to fit in, and the culture of trying to push myself. I like a lot of people that knew Enneagram would think that I was an eight, because I used to live my life like a challenger, take up
Mm.
challenges, do stuff. And I needed that breakdown, and I'm so grateful for that breakdown because it
Breakdown became a
really
breakthrough.
breakthrough. Yes, it helped me question my motives. It helped me question my
Mm.
what was I trying to achieve here? Who are the people really? Like it was like a whole shake up for me. And then over 3, 4 years now, I have like my own little. We have our own little ladies community, and we started to share from a place of that vulnerability and honesty. And it's amazing. It's amazing how when we can do that together, come
Mm.
from a share from a place of vulnerability rather than performance and numbers or whatever. This it really allows a culture of transformation, and then the culture of transformation gets normalized. At least in this group, it is not shamed. The vulnerabilities are not shamed. It actually helped us to become normalize this culture
Mm.
of openness and vulnerability. So I'm just saying that it is possible. It's if somebody wonders, listening to a conversation, that it all seems very nice, but I can't do that in our community, because
Mm.
anything I share tomorrow will be in the announcements in the Mangalarti or something. So, but it is possible, one step at a time, with the desire, with the right people. Even if you have one person with whom we can be honest and we
Mhm.
can be
Yeah.
vulnerable, it really kind of changes
Hmm.
the thing.
So interesting because all the things you just say these last few minutes, I could have copy pasted them, and some other people may have thought, "Oh, that's what Padmanabha Swami usually says in some of his lectures," because I make those same points. I emphasize that so much, and my own experience, we also in our particular sangha and nearby close group, we do lots of circle sharing, again opening, creating safe space, being vulnerable with one another. And I must tell you, in my travels and visiting different devotees and communities, probably for sure in the top five, but one of the maybe the top three and maybe the top one of the things that people devotees come to me is like, Maharaj, I don't feel much connection with the community, with other people. Sometimes we get together for the Sunday feast. Okay, we do the kirtan, the class, the prasad, the artik, and each one lives back home. And we don't have like space for connection, for knowing each other, for really opening our hearts. And I'm really needing that so much. I've heard that so many times in so many countries, groups, backgrounds, Vaishnava associations. It's like very much a pattern that I've seen. And I try to give that same encouragement you are giving. Like, it's possible. You just need to organize yourself. You don't need any institutional permission to do that. It's just getting together with, as you say, at least with one person that you can trust, that you can open your heart gradually. It's not by force. Trying to be vulnerable, trying to be heard, to receive, then doing the same thing with the other person. Guhyam akyati prichati, as Rupa Goswami will say. That's pretty lakshanam. That's a way of showing love for each other. That's sadhu sangha. And that's so healing, so empowering. In our Tadatmya Sangha, which is like the community I belong, basically, we have different, as you said, if you have a ladies group, we call them also sisterhoods. So there are different sisterhoods. Also, we have groups of Vaishnavis and we have brotherhoods, groups of Vaishnavas that they meet once in a week. And again, basically, the idea of the meeting is let's support each other. Let's uh, hear each other. Let's receive each other. Let's give ourselves to each other. I always, in this connection, like to share a definition of sadhu sangha that I love, given by Srila Prabhupada's god brother, Srila Bhakti Siddhardev Goswami Maharaj. Once someone asked him, "What's sadhu sangha?" Right? So you can define sadhu sangha in many ways. And he gave a very interesting example, and he spoke about Napoleon, and he spoke about something called the Napoleon chair. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? And we are asking about sadhusanga, and you are bringing a French warrior, so to say, politician, and a chair related to him. And he said, yes, because once Napoleon was with his army in the midst of the war, and at night they didn't have a place to sleep, and it was snowing. So if anyone will fell asleep in the snow, they will have probably died. So what Napoleon said was, he put all of them in a circle, and he said, okay, now each of you sit. Like if you were going to sit on a chair, but everyone does the same. Everyone become a chair immediately. So everyone will be sitting on the one behind yourself, and you will be a chair for the one in front of yourself. So everyone was giving support to someone and receiving support from someone. He said, that's sadhusanga, right?
Mm.
So he defines sadhusanga that way, which again, for me, it's so connected to what you are mentioning. And again, it's so simple. We just need to get together with people we trust, open our hearts, show ourselves vulnerably, transparently, being received, hopefully, without judgmentalism. That can be so empowering. So empowering.
You remind me of a book. There's a book by a Christian priest. It's called Emotionally Mature Spirituality.
Okay.
And it's a really good, I think the cover of the book is the iceberg. And the tip is
That's
the
it.
spirituality, and the bottom is the emotional maturity. So this priest, he writes about, among, I mean, it's a relevant book for all leaders, I would say, any religion.
Yeah.
But he speaks about the necessity that emotionally mature spirituality. Yeah. So he says how you cannot be spiritually mature unless you are emotionally mature.
Mm.
So I think these tools like Enneadharma or even Vedic astrology or location astrology, these are all tools to help us to become emotionally mature so we can actually integrate into the and understand our path within that Krishna consciousness. Like we have this group, we call it like Anartha Nivritti 12 steps.
Okay.
So, taking from the principles of Madhurya Kadambini, I
Okay.
mean, very clear characteristics of all the anarthas, and then Manashiksha, like talking to the mind, like you were saying, not just beating it up, but having a conversation with the mind
Mm.
in that mood, and the 12 steps of recovery of the Alcoholic Anonymous, the famous. So what I did was is a couple of years ago I started working on literature to combine Krishna conscious philosophy with 12 steps, and now we have our own literature, Anartha Nivritti 12 steps, and we have 10 Vaishnavis. I did like a 1 year training. Like first time was like 100 days training to like introduce this and do that. And now we did like a 30-day boot camp where
Yeah.
we have like 10 women now, 10 Vaishnavis who are
Mhm.
certified to do these meetings, to facilitate these meetings, run these meetings. And so the idea is very much about being Krishna conscious according to your nature,
Mm.
meaning harmonizing your Enneagram, your human design, your astrological whatever. I remember when, see, I have been an astrologer for several years, and astrology is very complex. It's very complex. It's very difficult to. I can't just look at somebody and figure out this is their astrology. I would need their date of birth, the time of birth, work on it. It takes a lot.
Mm.
But Enneagram is somewhat very effective, immediately applicable. And
Mm.
astrology can have so many opinions, etc. And it's difficult to kind of sit down and introspect on your own unless you really have the expert. But with Enneagram tools, it's like even one little principle, one thing, like
Mm.
be more withdrawn for somebody, and for someone else is like take charge, show up. Or let's say for a peacemaker,
Yeah.
put yourself out there. And maybe for your audience they may not know, but for Padmanabha Swami to come
Yes.
out there,
Please give me some advice publicly. I need to be humble.
No, I'm just saying that they may not realize that for a personality type like you, who's the harmonizer, it is an austerity to put yourself out there and have the YouTube channel and do these interviews. It's not as easy as it is for an achiever, for instance.
Yeah.
And so for you, it's the path of the direction of integration, of growth. And then
Mm.
you can see the results, right?
Mm.
You feel there is growth, and then you're able to uplift others. You're creating a space to invite different backgrounds, different devotees, different experiences to come and share their experience and harmonize. So that's like a good example of somebody who goes out of their comfort zone. I'm just saying, like, people may not realize that
It's
it was not an easy thing for you to do. Maybe you can share something about that.
yeah, okay. Thank you for your observation. I appreciate it. Of course, this is not about me being an example and I'm doing everything so nicely, but I'm trying. I'm trying to become aware of, okay, what's my nature in this case? What's my Enneagram type, and which is my challenge, and how do I have to work outside of my comfort zone? I'm not saying I'm doing that perfectly. Of course, there are days that I do it better than others, but as you say, yeah, to put myself out there, it's not easy. It's not like I like just totally driven to do that. That's my nature goes in another direction, so there has to be some challenge to that. But I, of course, there's my intuition tells me, of course, it's healthy to challenge that on some level. Again, not to do it extremely, because that will be, sometimes I like to think in terms of three circles, no, one being comfort zone, the next
Yes.
one being learning zone, and the next one being panic zone, right? If I go too far from my comfort zone, it's also paralyzing. So it's how to maintain that balance. So, but yeah, it's clearly a tapasya in the words you are using. But I appreciate the point you made that when one is able to do that effort to challenge oneself to go beyond the comfort zone on a sustainable level, that can be so rewarding not only for oneself but for other people. So it can
Yeah.
open the opportunity for growth and progress, just to witness what someone is doing outside of their comfort zone. Not only me, anyone. If anyone is willing to first identify who I am, what's my nature, then challenge that in a healthy, sustainable way, that has such a creative power, so to say.
Yeah.
But again, at the same time, not going too much beyond that, because that can also be unsustainable. So it's a daily vigilance of keeping the balance. And again, some days we could do it better than others. But I was
Yeah.
really appreciating what you mentioned, Radha Govinda Devi, about how we can practice spirituality, how we can practice bhakti from our Enneagram type, and how can Krishna meet us in our Enneagram type also. It's not like I need to be something different for Krishna to meet me, to see me, right? So I really think that Krishna relates, how we could even put it in this way, Krishna relates to each Enneagram type differently. No, he's very personal, he's very specific. No, I like to always think in this verse, about this verse of the Gita, of course, 4:11, Yayatamam prapadantitam stataiva vajamyam, which Krishna says, according to how you approach me, I reciprocate accordingly, right? And there is no, it's not like just that refers to if you worship Krishna, if you worship Narayan, if you worship whomever, that's what he means there. No, no. And it also doesn't mean, okay, if you approach me in Sakya, in Madhurya, in Vatsalya, I reciprocate accord. No, no. It refers to each unique, irrepeatable, individual person approaching Krishna, and he reciprocating in a unique, individual, irrepeatable way to each one, right? So he really
Yeah.
wants a unique, specific, personal relationship with each one of us, which sometimes we do not believe it yet, unfortunately. It's too good to be true, right? So we think, no, I have to fit in, I have to fit into this box, become this whatever, so Krishna accepts me or loves me. But he already loves us and accepts us for who we are, and he's just waiting that maybe that we accept ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if we see Vraj pastimes in Brajalila, there
Mm,
is the Chandravali, there is the Lalita festive one, fiery one. There are different gopis with different personality types, and Krishna loves each of them. And it's not that he only likes submissive and sweet gopis,
Yeah, yeah,
right? He likes all different varieties.
yeah,
And even in Chaitanya Leela, if we look at the personalities, each one had their own nature.
yeah.
The other
And Krishna,
Pandit
again,
was,
yeah,
yeah,
Krishna
so,
reciprocates accordingly. He's not treating every devotee in the exact same way. In fact, when Rupa Goswami gives this definition of Krishna as the ideal Nayaka or hero
yes.
in a more dramatic setting, and there are 64 types, at least there are many definitions, but one of them is there are 64 types of the Nayaka, and Krishna fits all of them,
Yeah.
right? So that shows how he shows different phases of his personality in different moments to different people in different relationships. So he's ultra specified, ultra personal. That's why I like to think Srila Prabhupada will refer to Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. He won't call Krishna Godhead. He won't call him the supreme Godhead, but the supreme personality of Godhead. So God, in his fully blossomed personality types, all these different
Yes.
nuances and
Yes.
varieties and ways of relating to everyone very uniquely, all this converging in the supreme personality of Godhead. And I like to think, in order to relate to such a person, we have also to develop our supreme personality, right? We want to relate to the supreme personality of Godhead. What about your supreme personality? No, how to refine, how to individuate, so we can relate to someone so personal, so specific as Krishna, and not only to Krishna, to every other single entity, right?
Yeah, and you bringing up about Krishna's personalities brings to mind the Chaturvyuha of Krishna, right? And then the Dhirodhata, Dhira Lalita, Dhira Prashanta, and so he Krishna
Yeah,
also has all these personalities comes from him only. He's
yeah.
the culprit. he's the
He's the source of the Enneagram.
he's the source
Yeah,
exactly. All those motivations, all that sparks from him. And
yeah.
another point, just going back to what you were mentioning earlier, um, this tool of Enneagram, it really can highlight. I have Nashingadev here in the background, and I'm remembering the verse, right? Prahlad
Mm.
Maharaj. Namaste Jaste Jase Viravirbhava Vajranakha Vajradamsha Karmashaya Randaya Randaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Abhayamatmani Bhurishta. So this it reminds me how there's all these undesirable coverings, all these false identifications, all these masks, so that Karmashaya, Krishna Nrsingadev can actually rip it apart only if we want to.
Mhm.
And so these Enneagram tools, it's not like I don't use them independently or in isolation. Or it's not like a label or a box, but it's like that mirror to see that karmashaya, to look at those aspects as a how to sincerely commit myself to the self work.
Mhm.
How to do that, how to allow Nrsingadev to make that inner transformation in me, how I can confront my own patterns. And so that's the whole prayer, like Nrsingadev, and when I invite Nrsingadev and I ask Nrsingadev to cleanse all my character defects and not like destroy me, but destroy that the the package of anarthas, so the Anartha Nivritti, but in a like they say, please destroy all these anarthas with your Vajranakha, but gently, because
Yeah,
if he does,
I'm sure many of the listeners were waiting for that part. Gently.
please,
Yeah,
otherwise
it's
we can't
interesting
bear.
because Nrsinga Dev is sometimes depicted as the personification of Krishna's Sudarshan chakra. And the word Sudarshan means proper vision, right? Darshan means vision, and Su means good, nice, proper. So just to take, because sometimes the Sringadev or these Leelas may seem a little bit too intense. but ultimately they are speaking about this, no, how to acquire a proper vision, and for that, how to deal with our false values, our anarthas. And it's very
And
proper that
also,
you bring Nrsimha, because in a few days we are celebrating Nrsimha
yes,
Chaturthi, which is the day
and
of
also,
where I also accepted sannyas. So it's for me
oh,
a
I
very
see.
important day. And I also relate that many times with Prahlad Maharaj and the spirit of abhayatva, or fearlessness, which is so connected to all the things we are talking here now. Because
Yeah,
fear gets so much in the way of inner transformation, of confronting our shadow, of doing this Anartha Nivritti work. Fear gets so much in the way. So yeah, fearlessness, how to embrace that. Hmm.
yeah. And that abhayam atmani bhurishta, also for me, it's the, like, Nrsingadev is Vatsalya. If
Hmm.
Rupa Goswami, when he describes the mood, the rasa of every deity, Nrsingadev is Vatsalya. He's not like ghastly like Parashuram. Actually, he's clearing those, uprooting the prarabdha
Yeah.
karma, the aprarabdha karma, and all kinds of doshas and all kinds of
Hmm.
baggage that I'm carrying. Nrsingadev is helping me, like, oh, my dear child, why are you carrying this burden? You can let it,
It's like
leave it. I leave it.
the imaginary of a gardener comes to my mind, like clearing the pruning, so the tree can grow properly, right?
Yes. And you
Instead of
also mentioned Sudarshan, right?
Mhm.
So all this karmic reset mechanism happens through invoking Nrsingadev, Sudarshan, and my astrology guru always gives these categories of karmas. There's the prarabdha karma, visible karmic suffering, and then
Mm,
there's the purva prarabdha, I mean subtle behaviors and patterns that we don't want to let go of. We are kind of like holding on to it. And then there is also daiva dosham, means maybe we've made some promises to deities. I will chant, I will follow regulative principles, I will do. And when we don't do it, also we get all these obstacles that comes in our way.
mm,
So by doing this process of Anartha Nivritti sincerely, and then allowing Nrsingadev to come, and that seventh step, there's a prayer. I'd like to quote that. It's very relevant in this whole context today's discussion. I say Lord Nrsinga. In the original prayer, they just say God. So, dear Lord Nrsinga, today I'm willing that you have all of me, the good and the bad. Please remove every single character defect that gets in the way of my service to you and your devotees. Please give me the strength to do your will. So the mood is, I don't want to hold on to my pride or my guilt or my shame or
mhm,
anything. I want to hand over everything to you and clear that karmashaya, randaya. So Krishna, Nrsingadev, remove anything that's coming in between you and me. I don't
mm,
want that. I don't want all these masks that's stopping me from my connection. So this prayer really helps me. And my astrology guru does these yagyas to help people reduce their karmic baggage. And he was saying how those people who are really sincere in this process of Anartha Nivritti, he's able to help them much more effectively.
mm,
But those people who don't want to let go of those karmic patterns, don't want to work on their inner work, it's very difficult. He can help, but it's like the elephant who throws the dust on itself again.
mm, mm.
So it seems like such an integrated system. Krishna consciousness is. It's not just separated.
Amen. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I'm thinking also how Enneagram, of course, this may be a separate podcast, so I'm just mentioning briefly, it's a big conversation, but how Enneagram can help not only, of course, in if you are directing a company, you're a CEO in a company, you're a guru, you have a community, but also in terms of sangha, in terms of marriage, for example, right? Like couples can use in the Enneagram in a bhakti marriage, so to say, not just to avoid conflict, but to deepen love and commitment. I don't know if you have a few words briefly. I know again it's a whole conversation, but I imagine you have had some experience with Enneagram couples in devotional communities and so on, right?
Oh, yeah. It resolves a lot of misunderstandings
Mm,
because Somebody may come from a traumatized background and may be very afraid of intimacy or any of the
Mm.
relational dynamics. And the
Mm.
other person comes from a different background, and then they're like, oh, my partner doesn't love me. But
Mm.
then when you actually look at the Enneagram type and like, oh, it has nothing to do with love. The way of expressing is different. Like there are
Mhm.
different love languages, there are different attachment styles. So similarly, Enneagram really helped me in my relationship with my parents, with my close friends, with my mentors, in my own marriage. It really helped me clear out misunderstanding because how a type 8, the challenger, would love is very different from how a achiever or a helper feels loved.
And
And
still
one,
there is love, but the other person is misreading it and thinking it's the opposite of love. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like there's three things in Enneagram. There's three, to kind of call them departments. One is the emotional type, the two, the three, and the four. The helper, the achiever, and the individualist. They are all about feelings. It's all about
Mm.
heart,
Mm.
heart. So their way of expressing love is, of course, with flowers or chocolates or emotion stuff. And then the five and the six and the seven, they're more head. They're more
Mm.
intellectually rational. So they may be more into the writing aspect or not just expression of love, but in general, how they relate in relationships. The very head. You said this, and so you said that, and we should do that, and everybody they say that you should do this, so they try to do that.
Mm.
And then the type 8, 9, and 1, they are more the gut, it's the instinct. So instinct based, the center is on that. So some things, it's not easy to solve it just by cognitive things. You need to understand, be open to really like integrate and understand these tools. So parenting, Enneagram is super helpful
Mm.
in parenting so that the parent gets less frustration and
Mm.
can understand the child. Because maybe as a parent, I am a type 1, I'm the perfectionist, and my child is a type 7, total enthusiast, jumping all around. And I may consider that it's a irresponsible child, but it's not like that.
And the
So,
tendency of the parents to build, to create the child as an image of themselves. Like I want you to be, even if you are not conscious of that, unconsciously, maybe you are projecting your child wanting to go in
yeah.
certain direction. And especially in our tradition, where we accept reincarnation, we are not thinking the child is born in a tabula rasa, like from scratch. It has no impressions, no nature. No, the child comes with a baggage, with an acquired nature, and starts to blossom in time. And yeah, what to do as a parent there? Yeah.
Oh my God, if I tell you how many times I have found in an astrological consultation with families, how many times, Maharaj, the child was the parent in the previous life, and the parent was the child.
Really?
And they
Okay.
have this combination, they have to resolve it. And they
Hmm.
come to the same family dynamics with a
Wow.
role reversal. And it's like sometimes so difficult to explain to these people, this person is not your child, this was your parent, you
Wow.
have to resolve this.
And of course, I'm extending in my mind also similar, although those not the same relation between guru and disciple. Also, I will say it's some type of parent-child relationship, though ideally it should grow into type of friendship. And but also the guru, I will say, for someone who is performing that role, so important to have some knowledge of this, to know, okay, each disciple again is my spiritual child. how to how to actualize their potential, and instead of just projecting what I think is best for them, right? For me, being a guru is just partnering in potential with the other person. It's not so much about I'm on top of the hierarchy and you listen what I think, what I do, how to do it, but who are you, and how as a guru I can assist you, how as a guide, as a mentor, can I assist you in excavating and exploring your potential, right? So yeah, in all relationships, it's clear father, couple,
Exactly, I was thinking
it's
that.
a universal pattern. So as being mindful of time, Sri Radha Govinda ji, as we are wrapping up, if some of the listeners are kind of okay, this Enneagram stuff, so to say, sounds fascinating, interesting. I'd like to explore this a little bit more. Any tips you
Yeah.
briefly you would like to share in that connection?
Yeah, I mean, there's Enneagram Institute. You can go online. It's a general, it's not our website, it's a just general website. You can go do your test there. There are many free Enneagram test websites where you can do your test. But there's a chance of mistyping yourself
Mm,
because sometimes when you answer what you would like to be instead of what you are.
yeah.
So I recommend you consult somebody who knows Enneagram to help you navigate. And once you know, there are a lot of free stuff, especially in this website that I'm quoting in Enneagram Institute. They have these 9 levels of your particular type, and it's very helpful to read it. And then if you're doing some work and you're aware of your warts and all, you will recognize yourself. I'm in this level. I need to come up, and then check out some of our Enneagram groups. There are some devotees also who do this. But the general advice is, again, don't get fixated about it. It's just one
Mm,
of the tools. Don't
mm,
start labeling yourself or find justification. No, I am this type. I'm the
mm,
angry type. Deal with it. It's not my problem. I'm this.
yeah.
or use that to label other people.
Mm,
Oh, you are such a 2. You are such a 9 or whatever. So be careful to not do that, because again, this is a swabhava vichar. This is
mm,
not swarupa. It's not your eternal identity. These are tools. And staying humble, and using this as a tool for self improvement, not to categorize, not to judge other people,
mm.
put them in a box. I think that I really have to mention that when you get into this, there's a tendency to become rajasic in
Mhm.
trying to apply this. So do it cautiously, with humility, in the mood of maybe this tool can change your relationships. Maybe it will help you resolve conflicts because you finally realize that you are the problem. I
Mhm.
don't know, right? What could be the.
Yeah. There are no enemies outside. You can be your own worst enemy, as Krishna says in the Gita. Mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. You choose. But thank you, Raghavinaji. Those are very sobering notes, especially what you mentioned, how a very helpful and beautiful tool that the Enneagram can also be used in a wrong way, and that being a tool for judgment and putting everyone in boxes, and even developing more bypassing, like I'm like this is my number, don't ask me to change, and putting everyone in those stagnant boxes. So again, I appreciate your note of being aware how to remain humble and realistic and dynamic in dealing with all this. Before we conclude, if you have a few more minutes, as sometimes you may know, in our tradition we have this saying, Madhurena Samapayet. Let's end with something sweet. But recently, in some of my episodes, I've inaugurated a section called Ushnena Samapayet, like let's end with something hot, spicy. So I will present to you a list of questions, 10 questions, brief questions, and I expect from you a little spicy questions, nothing too extreme, you will see. And I invite you to reply very briefly with just a few words, just to conclude with our conversations around the Enneagram, right?
Okay,
You are ready? Fasten your seatbelt?
ready.
Okay. So, number one, what's, in your opinion, of course, what's the most misunderstood Enneagram type in the Bhakti world, and why?
8, the challenger, because they don't look for validation and therefore they just express their opinion, and people tend to think that they want control, but actually what they want is autonomy.
Hmm.
However, I'm not saying that there are not unhealthy challengers, but I do think that that type sometimes is categorized as troublemakers instead of actually recognizing that they actually come from a place of not trying to be a covert narcissist or something trying to get their way. They just say things as it is, but they can get ostracized.
Mhm.
So if we could redefine humility and
Mhm.
understand the outspoken nature of certain individuals and not categorize them as, trouble.
Yeah, beautiful. Second one. Which Mahabharat character do you secretly wish more devotees will relate to?
Yudhishthir, although like Arjuna is like the favorite and there's so many movies about him and people are really like raving about him, he's more the charming one, the romantic one, the one all the women would fall head over heels for him, and he had so many children with so many women from all over. I don't know, sometimes I wonder he left single women all around. Somehow Yudhishthir seems to be like the character that I'd like more people to be like, and be inspired by that aspect of justice and humility, non-judgmental kindness. Like he was very kind to others but very strict with himself.
Right. Without going to the toxic side of the number one in the Enneagram.
Of course.
Just in case. Number 3, what's more dangerous in bhakti? Ignoring your personality or over-identifying with it?
Ooh, that's a tie there.
Sorry to put it black and white a little bit.
I think ignoring.
Okay.
Because over-identifying, you'll get over it. They will hit the rock bottom and then you'll turn up and you'll find Krishna's hand there if you're being sincere. But denying and suppressing can cause physical, mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual sickness that may take lifetimes to heal.
And sometimes we end up doing more that, denying that over-identifying. So yeah, if we have to choose, thank you for giving us a good, clear option. Number 4, what's one Enneagram insight that changed the way you saw yourself forever?
Forever? Forever, you said?
Yeah, that changed your way of seeing yourself forever. That means there are many Enneagram insights. You cannot decide.
I have a couple of them. So I'll go for the... Okay, mind my own business. Mind your own business. That was an insight that helped me in two ways. One is because I'm a helper. Naturally, it's easier for me to help others than to help myself. So sometimes I get so absorbed in helping others that I don't mind my own business. And then in another way, to be worried. Oh, will they do it? Will they not do it? Why are they doing that? So yeah, two internal and external way of minding my own business. It was huge, and I think it applies to every Enneagram type. This principle.
Yeah, I was listening to you, and I was like, Maharaj Swami, mind your own business as well. Yeah, thank you. 5, what's an Anarta people often spiritualize instead of confronting?
People pleasing, serving. I mean, it's misunderstood, but the intention, the motivation is awesome, but the act, if without the intention being in alignment, can be misused. Because then I may be trying to serve externally, but my intention is I want to get validated, I want to be the center, I want to be the one, and whatever.
Yeah, so many masks is still in between the two of us. Yeah. What's one thing premarital counseling should include but usually doesn't?
Understanding your personality types.
Let's leave it at that. Clear and powerful. If someone says to you, astrology and bhakti don't go together, what's your one-line reply to that?
Oh, I can show you so many quotes and stories from Srimad Bhagavatam that actually integrates. The principles are similar because astrology is about understanding your life lessons and Srimad Bhagavatam is about Krishnaizing your life lessons. And actually, there's a verse that I remember in this context. Anartho, this is the trance verse of Vyasadeva, right?
Famous
So
one,
when
yeah.
he Anartho pashamam sakshat bhakti yogam madokshaje lokasya janato vidvams chakre satvata samhitam. So the point is, we have all these anarthas, and astrology shows us that. And Bhakti Yoga, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, has a solution for it. So sometimes you're looking for solution. If you don't know what is the problem, means astrology can reveal what are your anarthas. Then what solution are you going after? So sometimes it's not separate. It's actually two sides of the same coin, and it's not separate. It is part of our culture, of Vedic culture. Sorry, that was not one line.
That's fine. That was one line. It's fine. 3 more questions before we conclude. Which type of devotee triggers you the most, Sri Radha Govinda Ji, and what does that teach you about yourself?
Type 3, the
Okay.
achiever.
I was praying you didn't say type 9, and especially sannyasis. Here I am.
No, because I find a lot of resonance. The 9 and 2s are very similar because we
Mm,
don't like conflict and
yeah.
many things.
So type
Three
3.
because
Why?
I think there's a particular part of me that also has that nature of being a performer, of being ambitious, to be an achiever. And so that really, when I see that in others, it really triggers me because I don't like that part about myself, like the show, or the pretentious side, the side of showing that I'm successful without actually being authentic. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Thank you. What's a shadow pattern that you have seen often in spiritually serious people?
Serious people.
Yeah.
Going back to the thing about tapas, like defining what austerity means and basing that on their ability.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Last one. Which Enneagram type do you think Krishna will most enjoy teasing, and why?
Teasing, okay. Maybe 6, the loyalist, because he likes to play with the sentiments. I don't know. I think all types, he likes to tease all different. I'm thinking of different types, but the 6, because I'm thinking of like Rukmini Devi, the way he was teasing her, that comes to mind. She's
Mhm.
such a loyalist, and if he can do that with her, oh my God, he can do it with any other type. So probably he enjoys that the most.
Mm. So we have to be ready for his teasing with our own Enneagram type at any moment. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sri Radha Govinda Devi. You did very well with these 10 questions.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Congratulations. And if you would like to conclude with one insight, one takeaway, one reflection you would like to give our listeners, what will that be?
Whether it's Enneagram or Vedic astrology or yagyas or any of these things, it's not again about typing yourself and boxing yourself. It's about identifying where your ego is blocking your soul to be connected to Krishna, to alignment to Krishna. So with a humble heart and in the true effort of being ourselves, becoming the best version of yourself that Krishna can love. That would be
Mhm.
the message. Like focus on becoming the best version of yourself that Krishna can love. Not what the world says, not what you think, not what you feel. Just pray to align to his will.
Thank you so much for coming, Sri Radha. It has been a pleasure to share with you.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.